Alright, so I have been seeing things floating around on YouTube lately, and I just thought I'd put my view out on the term fluffy bunny, and also what I think it means to be Wiccan. Which I am technically not a Wiccan myself. I am a seeker, which is an entirely different ballgame. So, I want to talk about the term fluffy bunny. And I've been seeing so many people saying, I hate this term, I hate this term, I hate this term. What I find odd about that is most of the people that say that are people that I would consider fluffy. I'm not sure if that's just a coincidence or what, but that's what I have seen. So, I think it's a perfectly valid term. I don't have any issues with it whatsoever. I think that it describes a person who claims to be something they're not, and has their head so full of fluff with the subject that they fail to see the real picture and what actually is going on. And they're just happy little bunnies. And I'm picturing fornicating bunnies, but I'm sure not everybody that's fluffy just goes out and fornicates everywhere. But that's what real bunnies do. Anyway, so yeah, I think it's a completely valid term for the pagan community. I don't think that people necessarily have a right to call people fluffy that are part of a path that they know nothing about, because they know nothing about it. I don't know if there is one, but if there's some pagan path that's all about, loving this and dancing around, and that's like all it focuses on, and these people are acting like other pagan paths would consider fluffy, but they're just following their path, like, there's nothing wrong with that. Because everybody's path is individual. I think it becomes a problem when you start calling it something it's not. Which leads me into my other point, what it means to be a Wiccan. Now, I've kind of gone back and forth on this view, and I probably will again change my mind and whatnot. However, I think now, anyway, that it takes a Wiccan to make a Wiccan. What that means, for those of you who aren't familiar with the term, is that it takes somebody who has been initiated into Wicca, the path of the wise, to train a seeker and initiate them. There are many different forms of Wicca, but they all fall under this category. And why I think this now, and I used to consider myself Wiccan before I started actually looking into it and the history and what it means. And then I started calling myself a seeker, because I want to be initiated eventually into the path, or the Blue Star tradition. So, but I do not belong to a Blue Star coven yet, so cannot claim it as my tradition, cannot claim to be initiated, cannot essentially claim to be Wiccan. Now, the reason I've gone back and forth on this is because I see groups, I see covens that call themselves Wiccan and follow almost precisely what I view as Wicca. So, however, the initiated part of Wicca, if a coven does not have the background of Wicca, I do think they're just a pagan coven. Because if we go back to the beginning, there are things you learn in initiated that are oath-bound. And there is no way for us outside of this to know the truth of Wicca that have been passed down from generation to generation. And now I feel, I didn't before admittedly, but I feel now that without those aspects that we cannot possibly know, that we don't even know what they are because they're so oath-bound, that I don't think we can recognize ourselves as a part of the Wiccan community. Because we lack something that they have, and that is the knowledge of the oath-bound. In the path I'm trying to follow, I will probably consider myself Wiccan when I become a dedicant. When I become dedicated. And the reason, and it wouldn't be initiation, because the Blue Star tradition works in different ways. They have 5 steps instead of just 3 degrees. They have the 3 degrees, but before that you can be a dedicant, and then starts with an N. I can't pronounce it. But after that, that is your training to become a first degree initiate. So I would probably consider myself Wiccan when I become a dedicant, but I will probably still specify that I am only a dedicant. Just like as I specify now, I am a seeker. I am not actually Wiccan. I am not a part of the Wicca, because I have no knowledge of the oath-bound mysteries. I am a witch. I am definitely pagan. And I follow my path as I see fit. And I am still seeking training by an initiate. 3rd degree, because that's who can teach. There's a coven about 4 hours away from where I live that I'm trying to get into. So I hope that works out for me, because I think the next closest one is in Montana, which is pretty far away from me. Anyway, so that's my view about Fluffy Bunnie and what it means to be a part of the Wicca. I don't really care if you disagree with me or not. It doesn't affect my opinion at all to know that you consider yourself Wiccan and I wouldn't consider you Wiccan. You're free to call yourself whatever you like. Just know that there are those of us who are very skeptical and will frown upon it, because that's all we can do. We might call you out on it, but other than that, just follow the path you see fit. I really don't care what you believe. I don't care at all who you worship, who you don't worship. I could care less if you believe the same things I do, but I do think it's a problem when people start calling their path something it's not. There's nothing wrong with being a pagan witch. There's nothing wrong with being a neo-pagan. There is absolutely nothing wrong with these terms. So please don't call yourself something you're not. And the rest of us won't resort to the name calling. So anyway, that's my take. Agree, disagree, don't care. Video responses are fine. Comments, please, I'll try to get back to them all. Well, if they're worth getting back to. And with that, I say merry part, and I wish you well.